Hey guys, it's controversial. Today I'm going to make a video about DNA. Now, what DNA am I talking about? I'm going to be talking about Egyptian DNA, and whenever people say that DNA has proved that Eurasian people were the ancient Egyptians. Now, I'm going to go through each one of these claims and where they come from. And let's start with the elephant in the room, which is the Igenia one, where they did a DNA test on King Tut and there was a reconstruction done. So the way that this came to be was a man from Switzerland named Roman Schultz. He was watching a documentary on King Tut, and the video or the documentary was about them finding out if Akhenaten was the father of King Tut. Now, whenever he watched this, he has, I guess he has some sort of history in genetics. So whenever he was watching, he looked on screen and a genome that was presented showed R1b1a, the R1b1a haplogroup. Now, the R1b1a haplogroup is the most common haplogroup in Western Europe, and he took this and he published it. He has Igenia, a private organization, where he then published it on there and stated that this is definitive proof that King Tut had Western European DNA. Now, because this got so much attention, he ended up getting so much funding, I guess, that he ended up doing a reconstruction, which was not based on DNA. It was just a 3D scan of his face, and the problem with that is that the features were white features, and he even said himself that the results were non-scientific, which is why I don't understand why people still use this as fact when he even said himself it was non-scientific. So the problem with the reconstruction is that whenever you have a 3D model or a 3D scan, what happens is it's just a untextured it's an untextured scan of the face. So it is what they do is they kind of restore it a bit with themselves by hand, and also they apply skin tone and eye color. Now, the problem with this is that they can choose what eye color and what skin tone they can do. So if this already isn't a red flag, even with showing that he said the results were non-scientific and the way he got the information, then you should know that he, because the whole Western European thing, they shows a very light skin, light eyes, and basically that's what happened. And they said that they used the skin tone from average modern Egyptians, which I don't think that that's average modern Egyptians, because that was super white skin. Now, the next problem is the nose size and the mouth size. Now, because what a lot of people don't understand, and whenever a lot of people that don't understand, when they look at King Tut's mummy, they say, "Oh, he doesn't have big lips or a big nose. How is he black if his mummy doesn't?" But you gotta understand, he's been dead for thousands of years, and the reason why he doesn't have any lips or any nose is because the fat, which is why your lips and nose get a certain size, is because of the fat. And whenever you die, the fat starts to die, and over thousands of years it's corroded so much to where it's non-existent. So that's why he has no lip size or nose size. And what they did right was they gave him really small lips or a small nose. Now, if they were to give him a good mouth size, a good nose size that fits an African, and then also give him hair that fits an African, and also the skin tone and eye tone that fits an African, no matter what the initial face shape is, it's still gonna look like an African. Which there was also another DNA test and a facial reconstruction of King Tut that was done in 2001 or 2002, and I'm going to show that on screen. Now, if the initial information is true and King Tut's haplogroup is really R1b1a, that doesn't mean anything, because you have a haplogroup for your mom and your dad, which is your X and Y chromosome, your mitochondrial and your Y DNA. So the way it works is, this is not autosomal DNA, so they're not just giving a DNA analysis of all of your genetics. They're just showing a haplogroup of your X or Y line. So how this works is, you have your haplogroup that shows the genetic location of where they come from, or their modern inhabitants. And then you also have your dads, right? So that's what the R1B1A is. Now, if King Tut's haplogroup, right, was R1B1A, that just means that his dads, and so on, for many generations, he just carried that last mutation, that last haplogroup. But everyone else in his family could have been African, like could have been freaking anything for that matter. But since that you have that line, that Y haplogroup, that just shows that's a minuscule. I mean, that's very minuscule. And then also, this has been kind of backed up by a newer DNA test done by DNA Tribes, which is yet to be falsified. So for all the people that are saying it's been debunked, I'm yet to see any. There is no information that has ever debunked this. They did autosomal, which basically has all of your heritage line, so your bloodline, your heritage. So what this information showed is, yeah, King Tut did have, and I was right, King Tut did have a small amount of Western European, but I mean, that could have been where his his Y line comes from. And as you can see, he is mostly African and has mostly African genetics, and I'll show that on screen right now, and also does most of his family. So now that we got done with that, we are going to go to the next one, which is not really a DNA test, but is just a 3D scan of Nefertiti's face. Now, the problem with this is that a lot of people don't understand that this, it wasn't backed by any DNA. All it was a 3D scan of the face. So what they did right was they put her head, or her mummified head, up to the 3D scanning machine, and then they did their thing. And of course, again, I told you this, it's a untextured polygonal reconstruction of the face. So again, because she's been dead for thousands of years, they have to by hand do the things that they have to do to make her seem more alive. And also they have to manually put down skin color and eye color and hair features. So they could have put any type of skin tone, right? They could have put any skin tone, and they could have showed, that there was this autosomal, which is the best way to do any type of DNA test. They didn't do the DNA Tribes, which showed that she was 69.6% African and the rest Eurasian. But what they did was they just gave her a regular white face. And also, whenever you reconstruct the face, because the fat has been dead, they didn't give her big enough lips, or even a big enough nose for that matter. So you got to understand that they are manually doing this. All that they're doing is they're taking mini photos, a 3D scan of the face, which is just multiple photos in a 360 view, which generates a face. And they are manually doing the reconstructions by hand, because all it is a 3D polygonal view of a dead person that's been dead for 2,500 years. So over 2,500 years, over 3,000 years for that matter. So that's the problem with that. And they could have gave her a dark skin because it is Egypt, and you'd have, even if you are the most Eurocentric, you gotta admit they'd probably be more tan skin than that. I mean, they just gave her white skin. They just gave her white skin, which they had no reason to do that since there was no DNA behind it. Which you have people like 7Phoenician7 making fun of people that don't understand, which you don't even understand yourself, the whole 3D scan. So that is, they could have gave her dark skin, and they could have accentuated the nose and the lips, and that would have been that, and it would have actually been believable. The next one I'm going to talk about is the one that was done by that of Johannes Cross of the Max Planck Institute, and what he did was he touted this as the first successful DNA test, which there's been multiple. I mean, I've already been talking about them, but just look at DNA Tribes or the documentary where they did that DNA test, which was even backed by Zahi Hawass of all people. So the whole thing of it was the first, which is a lie, so we should take this with a grain of salt. Now, what he stated was that the Egyptians were mostly of Near Eastern and Mediterranean descent, and I looked further into it, and it's because the DNA test showed that the ancient Egyptians mostly carried the E1B1B. Most of them did, and this was done from mummies from Middle Egypt or Amarna, and it was like 90 or some mummies, and it showed that the E1B1B haplogroup comes from the Horn of Africa or East Africa, and the DNA that they found the specific subclade of the E1B1B that they found was of the EM78 and EM81 or M81. So both of these DNA subclades originate in North Africa. One being Egypt, which is native to Egypt, and it would be common sense that those people would have that native especially the inhabitants would have that native haplogroup, and then EM81, which would be originated in just northern Africa, broadly northern Africa, and that is the problem. The DNA test was completely fabricated. So whenever they got this result that this was that the DNA that they found was mostly of people of Near Eastern descent, is completely wrong, because both of the most found haplogroups were of North African, native North African, and Horn of African descent. Now, they also found some of the J haplogroup and of the R haplogroup, and I forgot to say that these mummies dated back to from 1500 BC all the way to the Roman period, and most of the mummies were of the Roman period. So that'll also show you something. So the E1B1B, right? And another look at this is a distribution map that shows where these clades of E1B1B are most common. Now, get this right. This E1B1B is found at most high rates in Morocco, then Somalia, then Ethiopia, then Tunisia, then Algeria, then Egypt, then Jordan, then Palestine, and then Lebanon. So what this is telling us, right, is that these countries that have this are mostly East African and North African countries, which is African. So whenever this person tells you that these results were mostly Near Eastern, that's a lie. That's a complete lie, and I don't think anybody has debunked this DNA test yet, and it was that easy. I mean, so also, one thing I might have to play devil's advocate, he is a firm believer that the out of Africa theory is not true. So with that, there is a theory also that the E1B1B subclade is originates, especially those originate in the Near East. So when he says that, right, he can definitely have the reason to say that those results were Near Eastern and not African. Now the problem here is that in this DNA test, they take shots a lot at people who believe that the ancient Egyptians were sub-Saharan Africans. And a lot of people don't understand is that just because we think they're black doesn't mean that we believe that they were sub-Saharan Africans. There are people in North Africa today that are black. I mean, just look at all Nilo-Saharan people. I mean, a lot of the Berber tribes have many dark people. So what are you, very dark people? So why do you keep saying, they are not sub-Saharan African? Of course they're not sub-Saharan African because this is North Africa, and I would have expected that the native inhabitants of this land would be native North Africans, not the North Africans today, because I'll make a video on that later, but also that that they would have East African DNA, which most people that believe they were black believe that they were of Horn of African descent because of the way they showed themselves and just DNA that has proved, that this is, and which kind of shows that this person just lied. This person just lied, and whenever you look at this, you see that, Somalia 80% and Ethiopia 40 to 80%. So, this kind of proves what us as African Americans have been saying, all right? So just because that the results were not of sub-Saharan African DNA, not all blacks are sub-Saharan, because there are blacks all over the Sahara and all over Africa. I mean, look at East Africa, look at some of the Berber tribes, look at all of the Nilo-Saharan, that is all North Africa. I mean, so that just shows that these people have no idea what they're talking about, and the fact that this person does not believe in out of Africa theory shows that, who are these people doing these DNA tests? Any of these people can do a DNA test, and you don't know what their bias is. I mean, and they can publish it, and then with their information, they could misconstrue it a certain way. So I think I have completely debunked this. So with that said, I'm going to talk about one last DNA test, and that was the one that was done by Zahi Hawass. And Zahi Hawass did a DNA test on Ramses III. Now, Ramses III was a king of the 20th dynasty, and it showed that his haplogroup was E1B1A, which is the most common haplogroup in all of sub-Saharan Africa. And this is kind of funny because you have all of these, anybody who doesn't believe the Egyptians are black, they have all of the DNA tests that I've shown. They swear to believe that those DNA tests are completely true, but because you have this one DNA test that they did that shows that that Ramses III had a E1B1A haplogroup, everyone's trying to debunk it. Isn't that weird how now that there's one that shows African DNA, even one done by Zahi Hawass shows that, and now everyone doesn't believe it and is trying to debunk it? I mean, come on, this is just common, like, this is just like showman's proof that that all these people are racist motherfuckers, that just all they want is to show that Egypt was something that it wasn't. And yeah, it was a DNA test, and it showed that he had E1B1A, and so did his son who murdered him, Pentauer. And I'm going to say the same thing that I did before, because, again, he could have that one, he could have E1B1A, but, that could have just been his father's, but honestly, this is Egypt we're talking about. This is Africa, so I am going to believe this. I definitely think it's true. I mean, I guess that's my bias or whatever, but this is Africa we're talking about, on the African continent. So, a lot of people that don't believe that was true just shows that they don't know what they're talking about. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, then like it and subscribe for more of this content. And with that said, my name is Controversial. Peace out and know thyself.